Thank you for being here. This is SouthCoast Matters. I'm Paul Latendra.
And I'm Julie Taylor. And SouthCoast Matters is a public access program where we bring together civic leaders, business leaders, and citizens to discuss how we can have a positive impact on our South Coast communities.
And we try to have intelligent conversations with some people that we hope are intelligent, and we try to learn a few new things. Hopefully we learn some things. Today's guest, we're fortunate today. We have Bristol County District Attorney Thomas Quinn.
And Tom was originally appointed on an interim basis back in December of 2014 by lamed-up Governor Deval Patrick when the previous DA, Sam Sutter, left to pursue an open Fall River mayor spot. And then Tom was also reappointed to the position by Charlie Baker back in January of 2015.
Tom grew up in Dartmouth, Mass. He went to Dartmouth High School and went to Holy Cross and got his law degree at Suffolk University Law School. Now the big question is, did you play football for Dartmouth High?
I did.
You did. I preceded you by a decade or so. I went to Bishop Stang when Colin Lynch was at Stang. We were heartbroken when Lynch went to first Holy Cross and then committed the mortal sin of going to Dartmouth High right down the street.
Right down the street.
Right down the street. How could he do that? Great man, great coach, incredible coach. Yeah.
Absolutely. It was great to play for him. Like you said, great man, great coach, and he is very successful with his teams, winning several Super Bowls. But more importantly, I think he taught the life lessons that if you really want to get what you should out of sports, he was able to do that. Hang in there, the fundamentals. You got to keep fighting. Got to be a team because that's really what life's all about. And I still remember some of those things to this day because, you know, whatever your profession is, you got to hang in, have perseverance, and keep battling. And I think that was something that he taught that to probably thousands of people.
Do the right thing, get better at doing the right thing, continue.
Absolutely.
Yeah, take baby steps, constant.
And the basics, I think that was part of it, the basics of life, not razzle-dazzle, but you know, you have your role, you keep working, you keep getting better. And there were a lot of players who started out, you know, he molded them, and they became very effective players by following that philosophy.
Yeah.
Have you been able to pass that on in your own coaching experience? I see that you coach basketball, youth basketball.
Yeah, I tried to. I don't know if I did. I've been involved in Fall River where I live, youth basketball, coach baseball, and focused on the basics, playing hard, worrying about what you have to do, being a team. So yes, I've tried to. I don't know if I have.
The DA position now, in my mind, it's I come from a business background, and the only thing I ever knew about a DA is you didn't want to see him walk in the front door of your company, and you could threaten some other people who weren't paying their bills with contacting the DA if you didn't. And that's about as much as I know about the DA position. It seems to me that your position, unlike any other elected position, you have more discretion at your. If I'm a governor of a state and I want to make a move or do something, I need legislative approval. If you're a DA and you want to come down on someone, it's your call.
I think that's a pretty good analogy, if you will. The DA has a lot of power.
Probably as much power as any government position, elected position.
Well, yes, because you, as you indicated, you can bring charges against somebody. You cannot bring charges. And I started out in the district court at the bottom, so to speak, and worked my way up. But one thing I always felt is that I respected the power of the position and tried not to abuse it because you're playing with people's lives. I've always attempted to try to be fair, to think things through, and do what I felt was the right thing, but always cognizant that I had a lot of power and should not abuse it. Because I could walk in a court if you were charged with something, I write something down on a piece of paper, you walk out of there. or you don't. So that is true, but I've always tried to respect the power of the position.
You probably have more power than the judge when you come down to it. And so,
In some cases, yes. We have more power because we determine, generally speaking, the police bring charges in cases and we prosecute the cases. But ultimately, we can drop the cases, not drop the cases. In some cases, there are mandatory sentences, which the judge has to abide by. Other cases, obviously, the judge has discretion to impose the type of sentence they want and make other rulings. But again, whether we have more power, we do in some cases, in other cases we don't. But the bottom line is we have a lot of authority and power with respect to bringing cases and how they are handled.
How do you view the new move towards drug courts and veterans courts and things like that to kind of have a more specialized system for some of these more difficult problems?
Well, I think I support them. I think we have to see eventually how they work out. Veterans court, you're dealing with obviously a lot of veterans, especially the last 15 years. We've been involved in several wars. Mm-hmm. Many of those people, obviously, or most of them have served the country. They've had some problems. Be nice to see if the system can help address those problems that in many cases weren't caused by themselves if they were injured in combat or faced post-traumatic stress syndrome. The system is rife with drug abuse, people committing crimes, even in some cases witnesses. So I think it's a step in the right direction to have intensive supervision of people to hopefully help them move away from their drug problems, which obviously leads to crime. And that's not good for society. I think ultimately depends on what type of crimes people are committing. Serious, violent crimes have to be addressed. Mm-hmm. The public has to feel, business people have to feel that there's some semblance of order in their society, that it's not a free-for-all, that everybody's getting off with things, because while the drug issue, a drug epidemic, if you will, has increased, it's always been around, especially in this area, New Bedford, Fall River. It's just exacerbated lately, the last 5 years or so, with prescription pills and other issues.
You've got a broad base. I mean, 15 towns, 18 towns?
I think there's 19 or 20 cities or towns throughout Bristol County.
Fall River, New Bedford, Taunton. Our anchor cities of what we call the South Coast. Each of those has unique challenges, and each of those probably have much greater challenges than Boston, Middlesex County towns. As far as poverty, the income level's much lower down this part of the state than in the Boston area, certainly.
There are a lot of challenges. I've said for over 20 years that Bristol County has a lot of things happening. Unfortunately, I'm referencing to criminal activity or serious matters. There's a lot of unique things that happen, if you will, unique crimes. But there is a level of violence. Obviously, the cities with the more depressed population, but primarily the population, the major population centers, have the most crime. I've been doing this for almost 30 years, 28, 30 years, and I think the goal is working with the police to try to effectively prosecute these cases, give people consideration, if warranted, in the sentencing, try to focus on the repeat offenders who are committing the most crimes, that continually and repeatedly hurting people in the community. When I was an assistant about 20 years ago, I did specialize and focus on that major offender prosecution. So there's a lot of challenges in the county. I am the DA for the entire county. Obviously, some of the suburban towns do not have the volume of crime, but they still have matters that are important happening to them. We go all the way up to Attleboro, the towns bordering that community up north, and then down to the far tip of Dartmouth and Acushnet. So majority of the crime, I agree with you, is in those main cities, and we trying to address it as best we can.
What are your top three crimes that are the biggest top three in the county right now?
Well, I think generally, in general terms, serious violent crime is the top priority. People running around the cities with guns, loaded, unlicensed guns, shooting people, threatening people, domestic violence, bad cases. I just can't come to grips with some of the brutality that is dished out to women in most of these cases. That's been a priority. The prosecution of drug cases, because they are so tied to so many problems, is a priority. And also I've taken on the issue of elder fraud, elder abuse and fraud, which unfortunately is a common occurrence with many of the elders, either who are victims through family members or trusted people, or through scams. So I've created an elder unit to focus on those crimes more. They require more attention. I just came from an event with a senior association in Taunton. Spoke to a group there. Elder population is a precious commodity who have helped raise all of us, who have been the bedrock of our communities. And I'm just not going to stand by and watch some of their lives, especially in the latter stages of their lives, ruined if it's brought to my attention and it's a criminal matter. So that's a priority. But I think
You've been working on that for a few years now, too, haven't you?
over a year. I mean, it's always been there. It's not. But since becoming DA, have focused more attention on it because the cases are not easy. They often involve a loved one, a trusted person accused of taking money from a mother or father, son or daughter being the...
That's going to be incredibly difficult. I know I have a 93-year-old mom who once a week she'll call me and tell me how somebody stole all her things, which when we go dig, they're always there. So I imagine there's always there's a credibility that you have to weigh.
There's credibility. There's, I think I'm not generally focusing on the situations where someone thinks, things are taken and they're misplaced. It's the stealing one's money through a position of trust, trying to prevent through education about scams, which I just was doing a few minutes ago, the IRS scam, the grandparent scam, a computer scam, and others. Because once you part with the money, you're not going to get it back in 95% of the cases, if not more. So it's tough. It's a difficult thing to get involved in. You're dealing with older people who have dementia, who have competency issues. Individuals see that if they're close to them, if they need the money. They can take the money, and it's again unpleasant to have to address it, but again, if we can make out a case of clear theft, I'm going to pursue it, because think of someone who has served their community and their family, sitting there on a limited income or have some funds that are just taken, and that's going to be on their mind for the rest of their lives. I just am not going to stand back and do nothing about it. So we're focusing on those cases, putting more resources into them. Again, not difficult, but it's something I feel obliged to address.
How do these types of cases come to your attention? Is it through other family members? Is it through organizations that work directly with our elderly population? Or
Several groups, occasionally the police, elder groups associated with providing services for the elderly. Occasionally a family member will see something amiss. Either another family member who is handling the affairs there might be evidence of wrongdoing, or some other person, if someone in some cases might have someone taking care of them who might have access to money. Those are some cases, whether it's home health aides or people providing support, which is why these people, they're vulnerable victims.
How do you, what's the fix outside of going after each individual one? I mean, are there systems that need to be changed to better protect them, or?
Well, I think the fix,
Is there a fix?
Is there a fix? I mean, is there a fix to a lot of these things that you're going to eradicate it? No, because we're dealing with the human condition, human weakness that we all have in different ways. Now, hopefully, we're not stealing or shooting people, but I think what you have to do is address it and just try to make a difference, a dent into what you're dealing with it, not trying to change the whole world because there's too many cases of it. But it's an issue that I think has to be addressed. I'm trying to address it in a basic, straightforward way and hopefully have an impact. The primary thing is not so much I'm going to prosecute somebody for stealing from their mother. If the evidence is there, we will, but it's the education. I just went out to this Oak Lawn Senior Center out about 10 or 15 minutes from here, and I said, if you can take anything out of this, don't capitulate to the scam artist. Be careful with your money. For all of us, money is the root of a lot of evil. Not all evil, like is the phrase, but you put money in front of people, any of us, it can cause us to be a little greedy. And I don't mean per se stealing, but and makes people do things they shouldn't do if they don't have the moral scruples to not do it. There are many loving children who take care of their parents. There are many loving caretakers, but unfortunately there are some that aren't as loving for whatever the reason. They need money, they have drug problems, lifestyle, combination of factors. So again, I think it's something that warrants and merits attention, and that's what I'm trying to do in a straightforward, basic way, to use your analogy going back to football. That's what makes a difference a lot in things. It's not so much a glamorous statement, or it's getting down, doing the work, outreach, education, and if we can prosecute a case, we will. And I think people have to know that the case is going to be prosecuted, whether that's a deterrent or not. People see in the paper somebody's been charged with stealing from mother or whatever the relationship is. I don't know if it'll stop or not, but at least there's some statement that something's happening.
Is there a particular place they can reach out to if family members feel that this is occurring, whether it's a family member or some kind of a scam thing that they could?
Well, they could reach out if they're involved with a particular agency. They can go to the police. I think the police would be the first vehicle, but if somebody's involved in a particular agency closely providing services, that's the first step, and they could reach out to us or the police. I think that would be the main vehicle. It's not, you don't want to send people on these wild goose chases, so to speak, but someone could call our office, but that would be another vehicle, but the police and service providers.
Now, my mom's going to watch this, and she's going to want to know if she can call you. She's going to expect me to have your number. So next time somebody takes her toilet paper, she's going straight to you, Tom.
Okay, we'll take the call.
Okay.
Hopefully provide her some
Homeland
assistance.
Security, are you involved in that?
Not directly. That's more of a federal issue. Occasionally we get involved if somehow we are interacting with the agency. You might have situations where a witness or a defendant is not here legally. That could have some impact with Homeland Security, at least agencies there that are part of that. Occasionally you might have, we had a very tragic incident in Taunton about 4 months ago at the Galleria Mall. Unfortunately, because of the state of affairs in the country and the world, the first reaction is there's a terrorist-related act, and it wasn't, but you'd have some dealings that way, but the Homeland Security is generally dealing with federal matters that do touch us sometimes, but we deal with the U.S. Attorney's Office on prosecutions at times. Sometimes they engage investigations and that would touch us because they're in my jurisdiction. They occasionally may prosecute some defendants that we charge. So, and if the opportunity arises, we certainly will try to be of assistance.
During the marathon bombings and stuff, now did they contact the Bristol County office, have you guys on alert, or was it just
Absolutely, because in that particular case, the brother, the surviving brother who was tried and convicted, went down to UMass Dartmouth and had friends there who were students, and then they thought might have been hiding out at a house in New Bedford. So there was a big presence of law enforcement at UMass Dartmouth, and members of our office were part of that until they moved away from that. But yes, that was a big show of force by the federal government.
Now, there's been a lot of talk about undocumented people living in this country. Is it a big issue in this county? I mean, cities like Fall River and New Bedford, you would expect there'd be some number of undocumented residents, but I didn't know if it was, a level that we'd have to be concerned. Or
I don't think it's a big issue. I mean, I think where we run into it would be in several cases. Someone is arrested for an offense, and it often is drug offenses, who is not a legal resident alien, that's one term, or is illegally in the country. So they would be prosecuted, and if convicted or not convicted, the ICE, they refer to, or would eventually deport them if they fit the particular criteria. We do have some issues.
What does ICE stand for? Immigration?
Customs enforcement, I believe.
Okay.
We would also, what could cause us some problems would be if you have someone here who illegally, they're a victim of a crime, they're going to be hesitant to come forward because they feel they may get deported, and that's not right, even if they're not here illegally, for them to be robbed or assaulted by people. So that's when it would impact us, maybe the reluctance for somebody to come forward if they're a victim of a crime, and defendants charged with crimes. An individual was charged, he's alleged to have killed his daughter.
right.
And he was deported after serving a sentence and has come back illegally into the country, and then has been charged with this offense. So that's when you would see it, but we focus on the prosecution of the case, and the deportation is a federal matter.
What kind of sentence do you get when you kill your daughter? I mean,
If convicted, life in prison.
yeah. How did he was convicted of killing his daughter? And
No, he, about 12, 13 years ago, he was convicted of violently assaulting his wife. After serving a sentence, he was deported, according to records, came back in the country for a period of time, and then is accused of killing his daughter about 2.5 months ago.
Sad story.
how big's your staff? You have to have an enormous staff.
The staff, interestingly enough, has grown over the years. We have around 140 employees.
Does the sheriff answer to you? Or?
No, separate agency.
Okay.
We have approximately 75 lawyers, thereabouts, which is a lot. And we have a state police detective unit who's under our authority. I mean, they're part of the state police of approximately 25 troopers who investigate homicides primarily and other violent crimes, and also do some drug investigation. So there's a big staff, and there's a lot of business in Bristol County, as we've indicated, with 4 cities, 2 bigger cities. It's unfortunate, but there is serious crime committed, and we just have to handle it in a professional and capable way, and I think that's what we're doing.
Do you have, now you mentioned you had 70 attorneys on your staff. Is there a high turnover rate with that? Because they're not traditionally paid a lot of money to do this. And do you have enough to actually help with the caseloads for those people that can't afford to hire their own private attorneys?
That's a good question. Traditionally, district attorneys, assistant district attorneys have been paid not a lot of money. Cause them to work second jobs and then leave for more higher paying positions.
Can they even pay off their college loans?
Some can, and that's an issue. Some people are paying their loans off, which is tough. Not only are you not making a lot of money, but you got to pay loans off, and you're trying to make a life for yourself. If you go to law school, even if you go right out of school and do 3 years, you're 25 years old. So you start working for a couple of years, start thinking about, having a future for yourself. So it's difficult, but I will say this to the legislators' credit. the last 2 years, primarily the last year, they've set aside money to increase the salaries, primarily of the lower paid assistants who were in the district court where I started. And last year, that made a huge difference. And they also have done so this year. So I'm grateful for that. The goal is to have that continue. I hope to get more funds for our budget. I've worked with the legislature and they've been helpful, but there were some issues with the economy at the end of the year. I don't know how it's going to play out. So I'm trying to make the most of what I have, advocate for what I need, not more. I'm not looking to have more than I don't, but we have, I think if people really knew, we have a lot of serious crimes to investigate. I want to do the best job I can for the citizens of Bristol County investigating these matters, because people are hurt. They're dying, they're being killed, children and or adults are being sexually assaulted, women are being beaten up badly, and a lot of other crimes, carrying firearms, drug cases. So we want to handle these as well as we can for the citizens. That's my goal, is to have a professional prosecution. But it takes time, resources, and good people. So that's what we're trying to do, and I think we've been successful at that, but it's a constant battle.
And it takes a certain type of person to want to dedicate their life to doing a job like your work in the district attorney's office, and to be a prosecutor at the county level. It's a thankless job, but one that we all appreciate that they do.
I agree. I've always, I started out for 10 years. I started in the district court, worked my way up to Superior Court. I left. I was out on my own for 10 years. But I've always been an advocate for the prosecutors, because it is a thankless job, but you get your thanks by grinding it out, doing the basics, trying to make a difference in people's lives. So we're dealing with people who are hurt and mad.
It's public service.
It's public
basic
service.
Public service.
It's an honorable profession, as long as you're doing it right. And I'm grateful to the people working for me, because I know how important the job is. And I think people understand that. I don't think they probably fully understand the sacrifices you have to make to put the best case forward. We have 2 murder cases going right now in Fall River. There's a lot on the line for the families. People have lost someone in a violent way, and we want to do the best we can for them. As is the case in other cases. So it takes a lot out of you. You've got to make a lot of sacrifices. I over the years have had to make a lot of sacrifices, but hopefully it's been worthwhile.
Can I just get your real quick response to the check the box thing? How do you feel about that?
When you say check the box?
Check the box. So a person with a felony record coming out trying to get a job, they don't necessarily have to check that on a job application so that they're immediately disqualified. I think if they would have, opportunities to get jobs, we may have less recidivism. That's the only reason I'm asking.
I have a soft spot for people who in the past have been convicted of a crime and have moved on with their lives. I support them being able to move on with their lives.
You've got about 9 seconds to finish that statement.
On the other hand, we can't have people going to certain jobs like child care or taking care of money who have legitimate records that would be a factor in their truth or veracity. But I have a soft spot for people. People should be able to move on with their lives. Redemption is part of life, and I support that in the appropriate circumstances.
Thank you.
I'm Paul Attendra. We're very grateful to District Attorney Thomas Quinn for being here with us today. And we want to thank Ben Fortier, Kim Murphy, and Walter Sabina at TCAM TV for all the assistance that they give us.
And I'm Julie Taylor, and look for us on SouthCoast Matters at Facebook, and also southcoastmatters@gmail.com. We welcome your comments, and tune in next week.
Thank you for watching. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you to Kim Murphy, Ben Fortier, and Walter Sabina at TCAM TV in Taunton for the use of their studios and their valuable help, without which this show would not exist.